United States animation prospered from the early days of the cinema. No cinema program was complete without a cartoon. By 1920, characters like Felix the Cat, Oswald the Rabbit, Flip the Frog, Popeye and his family, and Betty Boop were established favorites. But it was Walt Disney who turned it into an industry. He had something like genius, and his determination, his single-minded drive, made him the most successful animated filmmaker who has ever lived. He entertained millions all over the world. His most successful character, Mickey Mouse, first appeared in 1928 in Steamboat Willie. He died in 1966 and was greatly mourned. Even Mickey Mouse was in tears on the cover of Paris Match magazine the week after. From the early 1930s until the Second World War, production of animated films increased rapidly. A number of extremely talented young animators emerged during that period. They created hundreds of popular characters. This is Bob Clampett with Porky Pig, his leading man. Tex Avery with his popular creation Droopy. Tom and Jerry by Bill Hanna and Joe Barbera, who popularized television cartoons. The magnificent Walter Lantz and his creation Woody Woodpecker. Friz Freleng and Speedy Gonzales. Chuck Jones had a major part in this golden age of American cartoons. Chuck Jones has invented many well-known cartoon characters in the last 40 years.
The first major character that we had at Warner Brothers was Bugs Bunny. There were others that preceded it, but they didn't quite grow up, and a couple of insufficient rabbit pictures were made until Tex Avery in 1938 made a film called The Wild Hare, and this was the first time Bugs came out, took a bite out of a carrot and said, "What's up, Doc?" And but at that time he was an insane rabbit, and he bounced a lot, and he didn't have the self-possession, the urbane quality that he achieved over the next 10 years. After Tex had gone to MGM, it was left to three other fathers of the rabbit. It was Friz Freleng and Bob McKempson and me. We directed all the pictures from 1946 till 1963. And the character developed under that aegis, making Bugs a somewhat unusual rabbit in that he had three or four fathers instead of having hundreds of children. That's how he came into being.
But after the war, many young artists left Disney to form their own company, United Productions of America. UPA had two celebrated characters, Mr. Magoo, who was very determined but half-blind, and Gerald McBoing-Boing, who was a one-man effects studio. At the time, the Unicorn in the Garden and Madeleine seemed immensely sophisticated. One of UPA's best artists was John Hubley. His Rudy Toot Toot was a turning point in the history of American animation. It introduced a new sort of image.
Every rat in the book. The lawyer was Jonathan Bailey, known as Honest John the Crook. He was the man who was gonna prove that people were wrong.
Your Honor, we've had enough histrionics. It's an open and shut kind of case. We call to the stand the bartender of the joint where the crime took place.
Frankie and Johnny were sweethearts, and all over town it was known. And then one day he came in without Frankie, but he still ain't quite alone. Now Frankie comes looking for Johnny. Well, I couldn't tell her no lie, so I quietly slipped her the info. He's out back with Nellie Bly.
Nellie Bly?
Rudy Toot Toot.
Rudy Toot Toot?
Right in the snoot.
She shot her man, there's no dispute. She shot her man with a Rudy Toot Toot. Your witness.
No question.
The state rests.
After John Hubley's premature death, his wife Faith maintained the Hubley tradition with her own films. Voyage to Next. Bill Littlejohn, a lifelong collaborator of the Hubleys, recalls their relationship.
Well, Voyage to Next featured Dizzy Gillespie and Marie Stapleton. Is it Marie? I think so. It's a subject that the Hubleys were both very interested in, of course, from way back when they made The Hat even, which, the whole, and The Hat, in which the theme came up about the survival on this planet of humanity and possibly the evolution to a system of a government to govern this planet. The Voyage to Next had this as a theme, and I know it was one of their favorite subjects, and it is my own, actually. So it was a pleasure and delight to work on such meaningful work.
Before the boxes, I can tell you what happened. Before the boxes, remember? They shared everything. They were living sort of like you wanted them to live, I think, at that time. Because I remember you smiling every now and then, you know. And then, some smarty, he went out and got his and he hid it. He became the king. And then, the ones that stayed on good terms with the king and the queen became the feudal barons. The rest of them became the have-nots. Remember Marco Polo, the Italian? He went to China, and when he got over there, they'd never seen anybody look like that before. So they looked back at him. So vice versa, they looked at one another. And then he came back, and he presented the King of Venice with a choice. Guess which one he chose? And then the other nations found out that they could get some of it, and there was a scramble. And what they do with it? Build bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger boxes. These boxes, you could call those nationalistic boxes.
Nation state boxes.
Well, why don't you help them a little bit?
Help them? They're gonna help themselves.
All you do is sitting up there making sun, water, rain, and then drown them. Well, Mother, you think they'll make it? Well, Mother, do you think they'll make it?
Well, Father, it's their choice. Of course they can make it.
But in time?
Barry Nelson is one of the new generation of Hollywood animators. Here he talks about his film, Opens Wednesday.
over a period of 5 years, I was doodling animation with no thought in mind except that it would be surreal and, evolve and metamorphosize into the next scene. I was practicing. I had a pile of drawings about this high, and I thought if I had a director in a stage situation, directing the proceedings as if it was a live-action show, a kind of avant-garde, nouveau vague kind of director, then I might have a film. The thing that was missing was an antagonist. And that's when I invented the cleaning lady. She would ask all the obvious questions and perhaps pull the director's concepts into focus. From then on, I felt good about the concept.
Opens Wednesday is an animated joke about animation.
Okay.
Barry Nelson is writer, animator, director, and commentator in this film.
Plenty of metamorphosis. Keep your lines strong. And remember, it's all an illusion. Okay, gang. Let's take it from the top.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Nice. Nice. Okay. Wait a minute. You're losing control of the pattern. Now let him have it. That's it. Good. Where's the other skier? Wait, we can't. Hold it. I wanted you to choreograph your movements in a painterly fashion. Remember to exaggerate your moves and keep it flowing about 24 frames a second. Some of you are a little too rigid. Let's loosen up a bit. Okay, listen, big fella. You were great, but I'm going to change your scene. I'm sorry, but I'm under pressure to keep this a family show. Keep in touch.
You ever heard of Stanislavski or Woody Allen?
Blood! We need more blood! Well, I love it. I love it. Okay. The ending is working. I really like the ending. We may have a film yet.
Bob Bleckman, who is a New Yorker, is one of the leading cartoonists in the United States. In his film, The Soldier's Tale, he mixes Stravinsky with tango, waltz, and ragtime. Will Vinton animates figures made from modeling clay. The great cognito was Will Vinton's comment on the grotesque mannerisms of contemporary politicians.
1,000 faces, Mr. Impersonator himself, the great cognito!
Hey, that's really fine. Thanks for the great intro, and by gosh, it sure is good to be here today. But of course, I'm going to talk about something that is like war. War, you know, war is hell. Let's face it. It is hell, and no wonder. Look at our leaders. Our leaders are, you know, I mean, well, let's take Hitler. 100,000! Well, let's forget Hitler, right? He wanted to be a house painter anyway, you know? Okay, well, then there's MacArthur. MacArthur, he had his shorts. Oh, he looked so good in his shorts, you know, walking back and forth out of the sea all the time at the corn cob pipe.
I shall return.
Oh, no, you won't.
Oh, yes, I will.
He always did, you know, but who knows when? I don't know. Gregory Peck did the same thing. And then there's Patton, right? Patton there, he's like, Patton. Patton. Always slapping guys around. Stop. That's what he like to do, slap guys.
Get up, swine! Get out there and fight! Come on, you coward! Get out there and be a man!
Man. How do you get that helmet on? I with the shoehorn, you know? How do you get that helmet on? Who knows? You know, Rommel out there in the desert, right? With the tanks, the desert and everything. You know, the sweat coming down, you know, all the Germans are sweating. That's what they sweat all over the place. Well, they're Nordic from the north. Oh, Churchill with a cigar, you know? Couldn't understand him. You know, he had a cigar in his mouth. You know, who understood? Roosevelt, you know, day of infamy.
This generation of Americans has a rendezvous with...
Oh, Frankie.
He had a mistress, you know. And then there were the movies. Training. The two brothers, they're fighting, you know, they're always fighting.
I'll break your face. Take this, boy. You run. I'll hit that. Take that.
Well, they're getting in shape for the war. You know, they feel good about that. Well, then they go to the bar and drink on Furlough, right? And they fight the Air Force, they fight the Navy and everything. Of course, there's no Coast Guard. Oh, and then, of course, you know, back home, there was the Andrews sisters singing Bugle Boy of Company C. Everybody real happy about that, you know. And then they get on the ship, you know, they're going on the cruise ship. Oh, here comes the Zeros. You can see the tracer. Kamikaze pilot. And then there's a guy that can't go up. He doesn't feel good.
Golly, Sergeant. I don't feel too good.
Go on, get your ass up there!
He goes up and gets shot down. Was a hero, you know. They'll write his mother. She'll feel good.
My boy.
Oh, and the submarine. Depth charges. There goes the submarine. Oh, there's the island. The Gulf. The Japanese. The Japanese are coming. The Japanese are coming. They got flamethrowers. The Japanese are saying something. Nobody knows what they're saying.
All right, panty waistcoat kids.
John Wayne gets shot. My God, John Wayne gets shot.
Sam Weiss is a veteran of modern animation. He made the film The Legend of John Henry.
The Legend of John Henry, which I made with a group of very talented people in 1974, was a very exciting challenge. The original lyrics to the song do not really tell a story. The lyrics are well known and people are familiar with them, but in order to create a dramatic structure which would make a valid film, we wrote new lyrics. We took the melody of the song and adapted it, giving it a jazz flavor, and also pacing the music so that it had a beginning, middle, and end. And we actually had to create this ending with the dramatic structure, both musically and visually.
John Henry gripped tight on his hammer, and he made his hammer sound. And men close by heard him sigh, I'm gonna beat this steam drill down. I'm gonna beat this steam drill down. I go for power on top of the border to try to move the drill ahead. But John Henry went but I'm dead. Oh Lord, I'm dead. But I'm dead. Oh Lord, I'm dead.
Leo Saltkin is a greatly admired designer of characters, an animation director and a producer. He made a film for TV called The 2,000-Year-Old Man.
This is a 2,000-year-old man, and he's a visual interpretation based on a series of recordings that were made by Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks. And in those recordings, they have fun with the concept of what was life like 2,000 years ago, as seen through the eyes of this particular man who has survived for 2,000 years. And so the film was a visual development based on their original recordings. And so in developing the character, the problem essentially was, how are you going to translate a character that a lot of people have heard, and the voice characterization is extremely vivid, and the problem is, how are you going to create a visual impression of this guy that doesn't feel false or a distortion or just a simplification of the character that people felt that was in the voice.
Sir? Sir, is it true that you are 2,000 years old?
Oh, boy. Yes.
You are it's hard to believe, sir, because in the history of man, nobody's ever lived more than 167 years, as the man from Peru would claim to be. But you claim to be 2,000.
Yes, I'm not yet. I'll be 2000, October 16th. Yes.
You will be 2,000. When were you born?
We didn't have formal years and names and writing. We didn't know.
I see. And what?
Nobody kept time then. See, we didn't know, we didn't write, we just sat around, we pointed in the sky and we said, whoa, hot boy, you know?
That's all you said?
We didn't even know it was the sun. We thought...
You mean you really didn't know anything?
We didn't know anything. We were so dumb and stupid. We didn't know who was a lady.
But they weren't.
They was with us. We didn't know who they were. We didn't know who was the ladies and who was fellas.
You thought they were just different type of fellas?
Yes, they're stronger or smaller or softer. The softer ones, I think, were ladies all the time.
Well, how did you find out they were ladies?
A cute fat guy could have mistaken him for a lady. Soft and cute.
Who was the person who discovered the female?
Bernie.
Who was Bernie?
Bernie, one of the first leaders of our group.
And he discovered the female? How did it happen?
He said, hey, there's ladies here.
I'm very interested to find out how Bernie discovered the woman.
Well,
how did it come to pass?
One morning, he got up smiling. So he said, I think there's ladies here. So I said, well, what do you mean, you know? So he said, because in the night, I was thrilled and delighted, see? So then he went into such a story that it's hundreds of years later, I still blush.
Joanna Priestley is one of a new generation of American animators which has introduced new elements of freshness and vivacity into American animation.
Hello. I'm here because I want to tell you something. Something really important to me. I'm an animator. And while I'm animating, I have lots of time to think about things. I'd like to share some of my thoughts with you. Of course, I could use this time just to entertain you. Want to see me wiggle my ears? Or I could draw cute little cartoon characters. Or I could get very deep and symbolic. Let you guess what I'm trying to say. I could do lots of things, but I think I'd rather speak directly to you, face to face. I've been thinking about fear and worry and how negative thoughts can control my life. If I'm afraid, bad things start happening to me. If I always worry about what might go wrong, before long, I'll have an accident. It's like being afraid of the dark. Every little noise seems like a monster. Fear is a choice, and I'm in control of that choice. I can see myself as limited, or I can change my mind and expand the range of my possibilities. Sometimes I worry about getting old.
You're already old.
I see a few wrinkles,
I see a few wrinkles.
a few gray hairs,
Let me go.
and I really start to worry.
Worry.
The wrinkles seem to multiply.
Wrinkle City.
I become obsessed with my body looking older.
Technical excellence, diversity of styles and talent will probably ensure that American animation will always be exciting and amongst the best in the world.
Here is the symbol. Here are the people. They're among the best anywhere in the world in film animation. Norman McLaren has been with the National Film Board of Canada for 45 years. During this time, he has introduced a number of new techniques and pioneered some brilliant ideas.
Hello, ich bin Norman McLaren. Speaking as an animator, if all these pictures of me, which you've just seen, were to be considered as the key drawings in my life, and if you single-framed all the in-betweens, the dope sheet would amount to about 50,709,880,000 frames. So, you see, I'm a very old man.
Let's go back a few years. In 1943, Norman McLaren makes Hen Hop, drawing and painting directly onto the raw film stock. In Blinkety Blank, he draws the music and sound effects onto the film as well.
But at last the bird and his opponent give up the fight and mate.
and from the mating flow the usual consequences, hearts and flowers, and the one, the whole, the egg.
In A Chairy Tale, he animates an inanimate object, a chair, which has a mind of its own. In Pas de Deux, he uses live photography, and with special effects stop motion, he staggers each frame in order to achieve the final effect of sequential movement.
I'm Caroline Leaf. I'm the director of The Street, and I animated it. The Street is a story told by a man remembering his childhood in Montreal when his grandmother was dying, and the family had a very small apartment, and more than anything, the kid thinks that the grandmother's taking up his bedroom. He wants the room for himself. People, when I said that I wanted to use the story for an animation film, thought that it was a rather peculiar story for animation. It wasn't very funny, sort of morbid, and I made the film because I liked it and it said something to me. And since then, many people have come up to me who've seen the film and say, gee, it's sort of like what happened in my family when I was growing up, and I know that they feel the film, and I'm glad that it lets people feel connected to each other. I'm glad if they laugh too, because I think there's humor in it.
The summer my grandmother was supposed to die, or as my mother said, pass away, we didn't leave the city. The only thing was to stay at home. and wait for it to happen. It was a hot summer. The bedroom was just behind the kitchen. And when we sat down to eat, you could smell her. According to Dr. Katzman, any day might be her last in this world. It's in the hands of the Almighty. Won't be long now, my father said. And she'll be better off, if you know what I mean.
God in heaven, what's she holding on for?
A nurse came every day from the Royal Victorian Order. She arrived punctually at noon, and at 5 to 12, I joined the rest of the boys under the outside staircase to peek up her dress as she climbed to our second-story flat.
Before your grandma kicks off, she's gonna roll her eyes and gurgle. That's what they call the death rattle. Ah, you know everything, Putz. I read it, you jerk, in Perry Mason. After she dies, her hair will go on growing for another 24 hours. Says who? Duddy Kravitz. Do you think Uncle Lou will come from New York for the funeral? I suppose so. Boy, that means another $5 for me. Even more for you. You shouldn't say things like that or her ghost will come back to haunt you.
Every Child, Canada's contribution to the UNICEF Year of the Child in 1979, directed by Eugene Fedorenko and produced by Derek Lamb, is a highly imaginative film with subtle satire, and it deservedly won an Oscar. Hot Stuff is the work of a Canadian scriptwriter, Don Ariely, and Yugoslavian animator Zlatko Giric.
Hi, my name is Don Arioli, and I'm a cartoonist and a writer. But what I've been doing while my introduction was going on was drawing cartoons. The next film you're going to see is called Hot Stuff. You're going to see a part of it, and the most interesting part, really. I did it for the National Film Board when I was working there, and we did it as a sponsored film for one of the government departments who wanted children to understand that fire was dangerous. That was the mandate. So I wrote this story, and they approved of it, and we hired Zlatko Grgic, who was the genius Yugoslav animator, to come over to work with me. And we did all the layouts of the film. Layouts are when you do all the key drawings, all the movements, all the strain, all the situations, all the setups. And the one in particular that you're going to see is a domestic situation with a husband and a wife, and she's ironing, which is feminist and anti-feminist. I'm sorry, but it was before that whole scene. Anyway, Zlatko came. We were doing the voices, and I did all the voices of the characters. I did the husband and the wife. It was cheaper that way. It's a low-budget film. So I was in the studio doing the voices, and Zlatko came through the intercom and said, we need an animal at the end, some kind of animal. He said, why don't you try a cat? So I improvised some dialogue of a cat. It was just an afterthought. And as a result, in the film, you'll see that no one pays attention to the cat because the animation had already begun. And there wasn't supposed to be a cat in the film. But as you'll see, the cat steals the show, really. So I did all the dialogue, and our producer, Wolf Koenig, took all the material, cut it together, and made it into a wonderful soundtrack. Zlatko just animated the cat almost as a second pass, like, we need another violin in this symphony, so why don't we do this? And I think that's what the cat really is another violin, the key violin.
What's it working here? You always asking me questions? Call me when it comes on, okay?
Oh, while you're up, could you get me some toast and coffee, Poopsie?
I was only going to get a drink.
Where's the cream? Cream? My cream! Have you seen my cream?
Where's the butter, dear?
It's right here by the cream.
Hurry, come on.
Here it goes. It started.
My name is Ralph.
The TV's on again.
All right.
Where's my cream?
Hurry, come on, boil. Will you boil?
Where is the cream?
Hurry, Toast, hurry.
A biscuit, anything. A sandwich. Glass of water. I don't care.
I'll plug it in with the TV.
Master, you're not listening to me. Look, how about 2% milk? Cats have to have their cholesterol. Dear, sweetheart, Poopsie, I can smell the toast burning.
All right, I said. Where's the sugar?
Oh, just a minute, Poopsie. There it is.
You have a mouse in there. I'm missing my program. Come on, Toast.
Wait! Oh, no! Poopsie! Oh, no, not the fork! Fire!
I might just wait for a hot mouse. A mouse flambeau. In the end, all was chaos and fire. The gods were angry again.
Co Herdeman, in his film Sand Castle, uses real sand to animate and creates his own surrealist three-dimensional world with imaginative prehistoric creatures. Geoffrey Hale and Derek Lamb choose the Wild West for their adventurous tale, The Great Toy Robbery.
Oh boy! Whoa, boy! Whoa! Whoa, boy!
Say, fellas, can I play?
Get out of here.
Aw, come on, fellas.
Get up. Get up. Go. Get up, boy. Get up. Say, partner, have you seen this guy's sack of toys? Thanks, old boy. Have one. Have one.
Ishu Patel is an Indian and understands how to build the magnificent palace of crystal with all its splendor in his recreation of an ancient Persian fairy tale, Paradise.
Canadian animation has an exceptional reputation. Some of its masters, Frederick Back, Graham Ross, André Thoreau, and Gerald Potterton, have made outstanding films. Frederick Back, with the composer Norman Roger, produced some sensitive and imaginative work. So with crayons and frosted acetate, you can create nuances, values, and colors that are much closer to painting. Now, that is interesting. I have tried in every film to carry the same message, but to say it in a different way, like a writer, finally. You can certainly recognize a writer in all of his books, behind the basic themes, but he always has to renew his message, show it in a different light, and give it new value. About 20 years ago, at Hubert Tisson's instigation, Radio Canada, CBC, decided to create an animation section. In this section, Hubert reassembled all the illustrators and designers who were interested in animation. Thanks to his assistance and technical knowledge, this team has created titles and films which have gained international renown. At Radio Canada, the visual quality of titles and promotional announcements makes them works of art. They are recognized and identified all over the world. Basically, we should emphasize living together with the other living things in this world, whether human, animal, or vegetable. Each of these has been created with as much care as we ourselves, and they all deserve the same attention and the same respect. We all need to see our own personality recognized, but we must also respect that of others. That's what I try to work on, this love, this respect. Now that is usurpation. That is the naivete of youth, whom we exploit in order to integrate them into a world which does not lead to happiness, which is real, profound, and durable. And that is exactly what I wanted to stress in Illusion. This sort of fraud we impose on youth, and which hides the true values. Yes, I never thought crack would travel so far. Because, in fact, I had thought it might perhaps amuse a few Quebecans here and there. So I was extremely surprised to find that the film was liked universally. By many people, at any rate.
Derrière de chez nous, y a un petit bois. Les écureuils qui font la loi en passant par les épinettes, Marie-Galimette dans les roulettes. En passant tout le long du bois, y a quelqu'un qui a trouvé ça. J'ai pris ma fille, mon boxeur. Aussi ma pipe et mon tabac. En passant par les épinettes, Marie-Galimette dans les roulettes. En passant tout le long du bois, y a quelqu'un qui a trouvé ça. Avec ma grille à radio.
This film, Crack, which takes us back to the cradle, won 22 international awards, including a Hollywood Oscar in 1982. For Frederick Beck, animation is a way to express the fantastic vision of his own imaginative works. And seeing his films, we share in it with him.
Car mes amours, ils sont là-bas, en passant par les épinettes, Marie-Galimette dans les roulettes, en passant tout le long du bois, y a quelqu'un qui a trouvé ça.
Another animator with Radio Canada is Graham Ross, who has made over 200 films, among them 3 outstanding shorts of international repute. His films are very witty. It was perhaps through a sense of humor that I started doing identifications for CBC. The station breaks or something, little 4-second things. In this film, a man is jumping, and it's me. In the sense that we do not apply ourselves to what we are doing. We tend to think of something else. At the start of Graham Ross's career, he believed that with animation, everything is possible. Later, after much experience, he still believes this is so, and retains all the enthusiastic curiosity of a beginner, as in this film, 1, 2, 3. It's a bit like that. So it's a bit like me, you see. What matters, however, is the quality. One can use the simplest means to achieve this. Now I'm adding a bit of colored salt with the Indian ink. I arrange the salt to get an image. I lift this thing here under the camera. I do a little tick like this. It goes down, down again. We hit again. I lift again. It goes down like this. And once more. It's always 1/24th of a second until it goes. Then it goes all the way down. That's the idea of the film. The title of the film is Now or Never. André Thoreau designed the well-known owl symbol of all Canadian animation festivals. He understands how to make use of shapes and structures in animation. Above all, I wanted to make a symbol which wouldn't be an abbreviation or a typographical thing or whatever. I didn't want letters or a word. I simply wanted to find an image which was as close to animation as possible. If you look at animation, the owl has always been a pleasant animal. Also, you watch animated films at night in the dark, like you do for any film. So I thought of a nocturnal creature, therefore an owl. And in cartoons, the owl is a kind creature. He's often wise and likable. If you look at all the Walt Disney cartoons, and others as well, the owl is a beautiful creature, something that is good. And from a cultural point of view, at least for the Inuit here in Canada, the owl holds a prominent place. For instance, the snowy owl is a beautiful bird. Yes, I'm basically a designer. I came to CBC as a designer to produce program titles. So my training is typographical, based on pure design. We simply wanted our design to move, and that's how I came to animation. My style is design. In fact, I do animated design, not cartoons.
The world is your drawing desk. You know, you can create things, you can draw something, and you can make it move and hopefully make it come alive for an audience.
There are about 40 independent production companies in Canada, and among these, Gerald Potterton has won an international reputation. His approach is very precise.
Well, I've always been interested in very simple explanations for quite complicated things. I was always a great fan of Buster Keaton's. I was very lucky to work with him once in Canada, and I loved the way that he struggled as one little guy against the universe, but kept on going. Jacques Tati did that to the same. Big complicated things didn't appear to be a problem to him. He kept on moving through the great intricate structures. Man sees a star in the universe, and he needs a star for his Christmas tree, and he decides to build this ridiculously enormous rocket and just go and get it, which he does. But he does it, he's not particularly put off by the complications that would go into building a machine like that. He just does it. And of course we can do that in animation, those kind of things, and kind of accept it much easier than in
actuality.
Je rassemblai donc tout le nécessaire et je me mis au travail. J'imaginais bien que ce ne serait pas facile. Je ne m'attendais pas à ça.
Mike Mills was born in Great Britain and now lives in Montreal. He is known for work and publicity. His film, History of the World in 3 minutes flat, does precisely that.
Oh, I had 7 days. Blew 6. Here goes. Let there be light. A bit of movement.
Apples.
Which way? That way. That way. No, this way. This way. No, that way. Okay. My face. It's dark in here.
It's been dark for ages.
Yeah. Grow up, Lenny.
Look, it's a blue wall. Soldier! Don't shoot till you see the whites of their eyes.
Come on, stand up and fight.
There's one for you, and one for you, and one for you, and one for me.
That's all your fault.
Hey, he's bored. Let's dance.
Oh, we are together, together, together. Oh, we are together.
Oh well, better try again.
Marv Newland is an American who has worked for a number of years in Vancouver. He is well known for his remarkable film Ann Jam Around the World, but he is equally well known for Hooray for Sandbox Land.
My newest song. Me, me, me.
It was an ordinary day, and the sun was shining. I was sitting in a seat, I was tapping out a beat. That's the way I am. Then I heard about the wave, because a little birdie told me. So I jumped into the blimp, and I started up the blimp, and I headed for the sea, the shore. Oh, the wave was fast, the wave was mean, the biggest wave I've ever seen. Glad I had my digging machine. The wave poured down. Now everyone is safe and sound, and it's an ordinary day. The sun is shining. I want to give a big cheer for the people here. That's the way I am. Hooray, hooray. Hooray for Sandbach Land. Hooray, hooray. Hooray for everyone.
Slow Dance Whirl is a film made by Ellen Besson, an artist from Toronto, using simple photo collages, oriental music, and choreography to achieve a degree of poetic intensity. Hard Day at the Office is a social comment, a satire on some modern attitudes. It was made by Al Sens in Vancouver. He is a professor of animation at the Simon Fraser University.
Gentlemen, just stop trying.
Tony de Peltry is the work of four young animators: Pierre Lachapelle, Philippe Bergeron, Pierre Robidoux, and Daniel Langlois. It was made entirely by computer, which is a wholly new technique of animation. Daniel Langlois, one of the artists, explains. You must work with a series of fine lines and divide the whole surface into a network of polygons in order to parameterize a surface. This allows you to divide the object into 3 dimensions like a synthetic sculpture. To achieve this, it is subdivided into small spheres. The coordinates are defined with X, Y, Z at each intersection, which allows you to conceive the model in 3 dimensions. From this, you can add facial expressions for every object.